Did somebody call for a masquerade? Let's go in the wig closet.
Now, he remembers me with the Mary J. Blige, but a part of me wants to flip the script and hit him with some Erykah Badu.
I realized that I didn't own silver eyeshadow because I'm not a reality television star from the 2000s. So I got the Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette. Not sponsored, by the way, but I do have a couple of her palettes now. And if you want my recommendation, order directly from the website instead of supporting those mega corporations that own stores that distribute a multitude of brand products.
A Bloomingdale's gift card.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel, I believe in Asian Sophie Baek. We did it, we hit 30K subscribers, so as promised, Kimiko has a new shirt to show off.
More passion, more energy, more footwork, more footwork, more footwork.
Thank you so much for helping me hit this important milestone. So here's to this one and hopefully many more to come. And speaking of that, I am planning on eventually reading Eloise Bridgerton's book before season 4 airs, but for right now, I'm planning on reading it much closer to whenever the season 4 release date ends up being. However, if we hit 50K subs much earlier than expected, I will do the video earlier than planned. Previously on LadyJenevia Does a Video about an offer from a gentleman, we talked about the prologue and chapter 1. There were a lot of serious talking points because of the heaviness of Sophie Baek's Baek story and an emphasis on the importance of incorporating flashbacks so the audience could better understand her as a character and why she navigates her love story with Benedict the way that she does. Before we move on to the main event of today's video, which is chapters 2 and 3, I do want to further reiterate that even though I am team keep the villains as villains, which is something Bridgerton has repeatedly been failing to do.
Back the fuck up! Get away from me, all of you!
I want to put this out now that I don't approve of sending actresses any hate for what their characters do on the show. Katie Leung already had to deal with loads of that when she was a part of that other franchise that must not be named. Ugh. All of these women deserve to be welcomed and commended for the hard work they will be putting in to bring this story to life. Do I like Araminta? Of course not. Will we give Katie her snaps when she devours her villainous material? Absolutely. And since I am all for a good soundtrack, I would like to submit for your consideration a song that I personally would love to see used for a Katie Leung Bridgerton Season 4 fan cam. The song is Mommy Complex by Peaches. I know, it's quite the title.
I am so powerful. My mind, it amazes me sometimes.
The beat is filthy in the best way. I used to play this song a fair bit a while back, but I was reminded of it somewhat recently because I was scrolling through Instagram stories and I saw that a Palestinian artist that I follow called Bashar Murad was gigging in Germany and he had posted himself performing with Peaches. And I went, oh, Peaches! I know exactly one song from her, and it's a bop called Mommy Complex. And while we're out here submitting songs for fan cams, for Michelle Mao, who plays Rosamund, I'm going to submit the song Run For Your Life by Tiffany Young. It's a song that is a perfect baddie anthem in both senses of the word, because a baddie can be a villain, which Rosamund most definitely is, but a baddie can also be a fierce woman who looks fabulous. And Michelle Mao, I'll have you know, has been repeatedly posting support for Palestine on her stories. Katie was also posting about doing cameos in order to fundraise for Gaza. I've seen Masali also post her support, so let's just remember the bigger picture here. Why be a small-minded, hateful person who sends negativity to actresses from a TV show when you could be doing your part to support people as well as the wildlife that are desperately trying to survive under Western-funded bombardment? Donation links for Palestine, as always, are in the description box of this video, and among the many links I've added for specific campaigns, I've also added a donation link for the MASHALA animal shelter in Lebanon. Being that we're finally getting into the highly anticipated Benophie Masquerade, I decided that it was time for this shirt to make its debut on the Chanel, yet another shirt from the motherland, and out of everything I now own, I feel like this is the closest thing I have that comes to Cinderella vibes. I also had not worn these trousers yet in a video, but now I have. They have buttons on them.
It's fashion meets...
Today's video is brought to you by my patrons who got to watch a clip of this video early, as well as get access to Patreon exclusive videos. Among other things, I have a Queen Charlotte review on there, and access to that video has rolled out to the $3 Sully Stick Together tier. Can you believe it's finally 2025, which means we are officially less than 1 year away from a new James Cameron's Avatar film?
That's right. You're mine.
In this video, we're going to be talking about chapters 2 and 3 of An Offer from a Gentleman, in which Sophie Baek finally gets to go out into high society and have one hell of a meet cute with the love of her life.
Shall we, Yerin?
Yes, we shall.
Well, this was some meet cute.
I know that not everyone who watches Bridgerton or follows along with my coverage of the show goes and reads the source material.
The problem is I hate reading. I get bored.
And I'm not about to force you to read something that doesn't spark your joy. However, I would, at the very least, encourage you to read chapters 2 and 3, because if you're in any way looking forward to Asian Sophie Baek falling in love, this is a good way to pass the time. Just imagine Luke and Yerin acting out chapters 2 and 3 more or less exactly as they're written. The only thing we know is significantly different from what's been photographed is that they're not going out on a terrace above the ballroom, but outside in a garden instead. And I don't mind changes like those. First and foremost, I want to see the romance and banter. I want to luxuriate in their chemistry, and that can be achieved just as easily in a garden as you could on a terrace. Chapter 2, we open on Benedict, who is discontent because the people of the Ton don't see him as a person, but merely as number 2. The Bridgerton family is immensely popular, so he's immediately recognizable as a Bridgerton in any given social situation. And he's also highly sought after as an eligible bachelor. But little to no one sees him beyond that name. Benedict was a Bridgerton, and while there was no family to which he'd rather belong, he sometimes wished he were considered a little less a Bridgerton and a little more himself. He's at the Masquerade ball where Violet is pressuring him to go dance with Prudence Featherington, and Benedict says he will dance with Penelope instead, who is there dressed as a leprechaun. And no, that is not my way of setting up a Penelope Featherington joke. That is actually in the book. Irish people, I'm on your side. Unless you're DUP, sorry, my allegiance is already taken.
Beat the cops asunder.
Now remember, Penelope in the book isn't married, but on the show, she already is. So naturally, this lead up to Benedict meeting Sophie for the first time will be altered in some way. I don't know which scenes Colin and Penelope will be present for, and I don't know if any of that information has leaked, but if you are an online sleuth about that sort of thing, you are more than free to drop your theories in the comments, because I have too many films to catch up on to prioritize digging for that information myself.
No one knows what it is. It's like this mad riddle that no one knows what it is, right?
Benedict is approaching Penelope and he's about to ask her to dance, but then there is a rumble in the ballroom. That sounds like the name of a whodunit. Benoit Blanc and the Rumble in the Ballroom.
This is a smokeless garden.
Disruption.
Wake up, Benedict, because Sophie Baek has just pretty girl rocked into your family's masquerade ball.
Guess you better slow that Mustang down.
Benedict is instantly attracted to her, but I really love the way that they specify that it's not just him finding her physically attractive. With Bridgerton, there's always that element of swooning over how good the leads look when they're all done up in their outfits, but it means nothing if you don't get emotionally invested in something deeper between those characters that are on their journey of falling in love. Benedict's internal monologue shares how he's taken aback by how this woman, I'm going to just call her Sophie even though Benedict doesn't learn her name at the Masquerade, she's not trying to play it cool or be coy. Her emotions are freely expressed on her face. She looks really happy to be there, and she appears amazed by what she sees. Benedict doesn't know that Sophie's never been to a ball because he has no reason to think that she's coming from vastly different circumstances than the other unmarried ladies of the Ton that are in attendance. Sophie is being swarmed by men because she's just that girl. But Benedict, he's not about to miss his chance to meet the love of his life. So he swoops in and goes, "Sorry lads, but she already promised to dance with me." I will allow him to lie in this situation because we've seen time and time again that the majority of the men in the Ton are disgusting.
But I knew who they were, and I told her who they were. Shitheads.
And we have access to Benedict's inner thoughts, and we know that he doesn't have any bad intentions towards Sophie. She agrees to dance with him, but she also quickly reveals to him that she doesn't know how to dance, and Benedict is surprised by this because women of the Ton know how to do all these silly dances because it's what they've been brought up to do. You go parade yourself around at these social events and attempt to secure the bag. But Benedict is all too happy to help her out and says he'll teach her, and this makes Sophie laugh. She grinned at him, the sort of grin one expects from an old school chum, not a debutante at a ball. Still smiling, she said, "Even I know that one does not conduct dancing lessons at a ball." What does that mean, I wonder, he murmured. Even you. This interaction showcases two things I hope they'll be including in season 4, not only during the Masquerade, but throughout Benedict and Sophie's love story. Number 1, laughter. Sophie laughs multiple times at this Masquerade while she's interacting with Benedict, and he's always very taken aback by it in a good way, because women of the Ton are not as emotionally open as Sophie is, to where she can just laugh freely whenever Benedict says something that amuses her. Number 2, Benedict plays detective all throughout this time that he spends with Sophie at the Masquerade. He is paying very close attention to everything she says, and we see in his inner thoughts that he's able to piece together bits of the information she reveals about her life circumstances and how she's different from the other women in the Ton. I don't mind them tweaking the Benophie plot if you increase Benedict unleashing his inner Poirot so that he's not just miserable and moping with not knowing who and where the Lady in Silver is. Follow the clues, Benny Boo Boo.
It makes no damn sense. Compels me, though.
Also, I may or may not have read a fanfiction where something similar to this happened, where a man played detective to figure out the true identity of his lady love, and I found it to be actually quite romantic. So whether I intend to or not, I will probably end up comparing that once season 4 gets released. As if comparing the season to the book wasn't enough, my brain will just continue to wander.
I don't think, using women as human shields is exactly the change that Gloria Steinfeld had in mind. Do you?
Gloria Steinem?
Whatever, her too.
Sophie asks Benedict where they will do this dance lesson, and he suggests a private terrace. And she asks him how he would know about a private terrace. And Benedict is surprised by this because the party is taking place at the Bridgerton house. And surely all of the guests of the ball would know that. Interesting. Now, time for another book quote. Sophie hadn't seen him when she'd first walked into the room, but she'd felt magic in the air, and when he'd appeared before her, like some charming prince from a children's tale, she somehow knew that he was the reason she'd stolen into the ball. This is exactly the type of romantic mush I want for Benophie in season 4. If you infuse a bunch of unnecessary, miserable melodrama into my frothy romance show, I will not be as favorable in my feedback. If I want to watch melodrama, I won't be watching Bridgerton. I will watch something like La Venganza de Analia. By the way, if any of you watching this are Colombian or of any other Spanish-speaking background, can you please go looking around online and tell me if there's any information available about when season 2 of that show will be available on Netflix, because even if there was a way for me to watch it through the official Colombian broadcaster, I need the subtitles, so I'm going to need to just wait for it to be posted on Netflix.
Okay, mamacita. Nope, that's appropriation.
If Pablo de la Torre's ex-wife tries to come back onto the scene, my fight or flight will be ignited. I've had enough of her. Now, that's no hate to the actress, but Carolina, the fictional character, she needs to go.
No!
Benedict is escorting Sophie out of the main ballroom, and they're having a cute moment together because Sophie is laughing once again, and Benedict tells her that he likes to watch her smile.
It's incredible.
What is?
Your smile.
Thanks.
It's my favorite movie of all time. Yeah, me too.
But the moment is interrupted by Colin, who scolds Benedict for ditching Penelope, whom Colin ended up dancing with so she wouldn't feel bad about being ditched. Remember that this is pre-Paulin marriage, so this dodo doesn't know that she would have rather danced with Colin the whole time anyway.
The whole time, the whole time!
Sophie watches their bickering banter and notes the family resemblance between them, and this is how she realizes that these two are the Bridgertons, and more specifically, that Benedict is the one offering her a dance lesson. Lady Whistledown had said at various points in her newsletter that Benedict is the tallest of the group. I don't know if they will include some version of that in the show so that Sophie will be able to figure it out. They would need to tweak a few things since Luke Newton is about this much taller than Luke Thompson, but I suppose they could just as easily have these two refer to one another by name, and that would clue Sophie in. Colin asks Benedict to introduce him to his new lady friend, because are you really a Bridgerton if you're not being lovingly nosy when one of your siblings is blatantly flirting with someone that you don't recognize? Benedict tells Colin he doesn't know her name yet, and Sophie cheekily responds that technically he hadn't even asked her yet. Okay, banter, that's exactly what I'm here to see.
Or I might end up in a suitcase.
Okay, it wouldn't be a suitcase, it'd be a carry-on, because you're 0 feet tall, and
Colin proceeds to explain how Violet is very determined that Benedict get married, and then... So then, Colin said to Sophie with a grand flourish of his arm, will you take pity on my poor, long-suffering mother and chase my dear brother up the aisle? Well, he hasn't asked, Sophie said, trying to join the humor of the moment. You know, I've often seen Bridgerton book fans say that they like book Colin more when he's a side character in his siblings' love stories than they do when he was the male romantic lead of his own book. This is one of those character moments that perfectly encompasses why that's a recurring talking point for some readers. I'm not even claiming that opinion for myself because I haven't read all the books yet, but it's just so fun to see Colin more or less welcoming Sophie into the family immediately when he doesn't even know her name yet. Benedict doesn't know her name either. But that's okay because Colin already knows that the vibe is there. Flow is flow. Once Colin walks off, Sophie says that it's nice to see siblings that really love each other, and Benedict is surprised by that because from his point of view, he and Colin were bickering. But when he tries to make further inquiries, Sophie remains evasive about sharing personal details about herself. She does, however, share that her favorite color is green. Relatable. I've recently found myself growing a deeper appreciation for the color green as well.
Disruption.
Benedict encourages Sophie to ask him questions about himself, and he's surprised twice over because she asks him what his favorite color is, blue, also relatable. And also because Sophie asks Benedict a follow-up question, which is, why is blue his favorite color? Benedict asks Sophie why green is her favorite color, and she ends up talking about nature, grass, and she ends up letting it slip that she used to live in the country. And Benedict correctly deduces that she was happier there. The conversation begins to feel more charged, and it's very evident that Benedict is increasingly drawn to her, because the two of them are having a real, honest conversation, unlike the silly, superficial ones that people of the ton usually have at these social events. Benedict asks Sophie if she wants her life to change, and she says yes. He took her hands and brought them to his lips, gently kissing each one in turn. Then we shall begin right now, he vowed. And tomorrow you shall be transformed. Tonight I am transformed, she whispered. Tomorrow I shall disappear. Benedict drew her close and dropped the softest, most fleeting of kisses onto her brow. Then we must pack a lifetime into this very night. And that is the end of chapter 2. But chapter 3 picks up immediately afterwards. Benedict and Sophie go to the terrace, which is above the ballroom, so they are able to hear the music they need to be able to hear in order to conduct their dance lesson. Sophie recognizes the song that's playing because it was a song that played in a music box belonging to her governess. And Benedict can tell that Sophie really loved her governess because he can see this on Sophie's face. A man who actually pays attention to the emotions expressed on a woman's face and responds appropriately. The chemistry is so loud.
Don't scream at me.
Sophie lets Benedict know that she knows who he is now, and he points out that she didn't know at first, and she explains how she figured it out by watching Benedict and Colin interact with one another, and the fact that they bear a family resemblance, even with their masks on. And she also had further clues to help her to reach this conclusion by having previously read Lady Whistledown. Benedict continues to catalog clues in his mind, and he theorizes out loud that Lady Whistledown wouldn't know who Sophie is, even if she wasn't wearing her mask. Sophie neither confirms nor denies this, and she's very wrapped up in her thoughts, and turns and realizes that Benedict is very close to her, physically.
Man, you smell good.
Sophie is very committed to not becoming a gentleman's mistress because of childhood trauma, but she thinks this is her one night of fun that she will ever get to have, so she wants to have a dance, and depending on how things go, maybe a kiss. Benedict begins to teach Sophie how to dance, and she stumbles a bit, but Benny Boo Boo is very patient with her. He is patient, understanding. 'Cause I might need some time to clear the hole in my heart. They're up close and personal at this point, and while making direct eye contact with one another, Benedict asks Sophie what she sees, and she responds, "My soul. I see my very soul." Girl, what? Did you really just say that? If this line isn't in the show, so help me. She's overwhelmed. He's overwhelmed.
But can you ever just be whelmed? I think you can in Europe.
And when Sophie asks Benedict to not say anything else about what she just said, he goes, okay, bet. And then he kisses her.
I'm going to have a baby. Right now.
Things are getting passionate, and Benedict tells Sophie her hair is like silk. And then she starts giggling, and Benny Boo Boo is taken aback once again, and she explains that he wouldn't know what her hair feels like because he's wearing gloves. So what does this man do? He puts his hand out so she can remove his glove, and he cradles her cheek, he touches her hair, and then Sophie says it's her turn and puts her gloved hand out for him, and Benedict is all too happy to oblige her request to remove her glove. Really, Benedict? Gloves off the night you met her? Benedict Bridgerton, I know what you are.
A slutacious whore.
And then Benedict is smooching all up and down Sophie's arm, and he's positively desperate to know who she is, but Sophie can't say anything because it's a secret. Shh. Benedict then launches into a grand romantic declaration. Okay, Patrick Verona, I see you.
What is it with this chick? She have beer-flavored nipples?
Benedict tells Sophie, I want to see you tomorrow. I want to call on you and see where you live. I want to meet your parents and pet your damned dog. Do you understand what I mean? I want your future. I want every little piece of you. And okay, are we moving fast? Yes. But this show has developed a nasty track record of overcrowding things with a bunch of subplots we don't care about. We're just here to see the main couple being cute together and in love. There's no time to waste, so we can jump into a bit of insta-love energy. I'm on board with that. If the chemistry is on point and believable, and you're just letting them talk to each other, I am seated and ready to watch. But yes, I'm going to need Luke Thompson to say this speech in the episode. And if they don't let him say it, hypothetically, maybe some Reddit groups could organize amongst themselves to pester the major media outlets that will undoubtedly have longer interview slots on the season 4 press tour to have Luke Thompson say that bit of dialogue in an interview.
I'm gonna write a letter.
No, no, no.
The Asian romance girlies demand that Sophie Baek be wooed. We want this man on his knees for her, and if she's not given A-list treatment, I have no doubt that plenty of romance girlies will be all too happy to ride at dawn on her behalf.
Turn thee, Benvolio. Look upon thy death.
Their passionate embrace is interrupted by the sound of a gong. And this signals that we've reached midnight, which to Benedict means, well, it's time for everyone to remove their masks. But to Sophie, this means she needs to run off and catch the carriage to return home, because the carriage needs to circle back to pick up her wicked stepfamily. So Sophie unleashes her inner Usain Bolt and takes off running, and Benedict is trying to catch up. Of course, on the way out, Sophie runs into Araminta and is terrified that she'll be recognized. But Araminta doesn't recognize her. She simply tells Sophie to watch where she's going. Sophie is able to quickly peek back behind her and observes that Benedict has been interrupted in his pursuit of her by Lady Danbury, leaving Sophie free to make her escape without any other interruptions. I want to give an overview of my final thoughts about the adaptation of this small portion of the story, but first, I would like to take a detour and thank the viewers who have found my channel because of Bridgerton coverage and have stuck around to watch my reviews of other things. I can definitely see who the regulars are because they pop up more frequently in my comments and not just on the Bridgerton videos. I had so much fun with 2024 and the things that I was able to do because of my channel. I was front row for a queer event I was invited to that had Julia Roberts, Daniel Craig, and Luca Guadagnino in attendance. Melissa Barrera shared my Your Monster review on her story, and henceforth she will be referred to as a friend of the channel. I interviewed Karen Fukuhara and was able to virtually introduce her to my cat Kimiko, whom I named after Karen's character on The Boys. And in general, being able to attend more early screenings and do more interviews, it was a fantastic year that really energized me for more of what I want to do, both here on YouTube and also embrace being able to try more things out with my Patreon exclusive videos, since I don't have to worry about algorithms and SEO and other pesky things on there. But now back to Bridgerton. Beginning with the most outer layer of the Masquerade, I really want to see an improvement in the directing and lighting. If these details are not up to par, I will simply make an educated guess that it is stemming at least partially from a lack of budget. You are not being given enough money for proper lighting. You are not being given the budget to pay for the necessary hours to make it look like it's not a made-for-TV Hallmark release. And I'm not knocking Hallmark movies if they are something that you enjoy watching. My issue is that Bridgerton is one of the biggest shows on Netflix. It's also one of the very few shows that has even made it as far as a season 4. If you cheapen the visual presentation of the love story, it doesn't matter if most of your audience doesn't know the technical vernacular of filmmaking. The audience's EQ is much higher than executives ever give them credit for. And in particular, audiences who are older than, I don't know, at least 30 to 35 years old. They are people who have been brought up on watching films that were not part of the mass-produced slot machine we see so much of today, particularly for direct-to-streaming originals. Depending on which generation of audience you're talking about, you've got viewers who were raised on watching Technicolor. Hell, even I was raised on watching Technicolor films, and they stopped making those before I was ever born. If you're not even going to give one of your very few golden geese a real budget to make their grand romantic love story truly grandiose and lavish in its visual presentation, then what exactly are we doing here? The practical side of my brain, however, is already expecting the worst, because if I keep my expectations low, I won't be shocked if the lighting looks ghastly and cheap. But it doesn't mean I'm going to excuse it. I will still say it looks bad if it looks bad.
I really hope I didn't just accidentally predict that.
Focus on the chemistry. Luke and Yerin were already displaying that they're very cute together in that early promotional video they did.
And then after the phone call, she was like, we gotta go home. I think I have indigestion.
I'm going to give you a season 2 example of what I don't want to see for the Masquerade. Do you all remember the part where Katani and Antony are doing their dancing on my own routine, and Antony goes into full-on panic mode when he realizes that Kate is going to leave, and Edwina is all, what just happened? And Katani is all, no, don't worry, I will fix this. And then the show cut away to that garbage storyline with the Featheringtons.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I know sometimes some of us forget about that because we fast forward through that part so we can get to the next Canthony scene where they are alone and unchaperoned in a room. We get the, why is it that you dislike me so? Because you vex me. It's iconic. The tectonic plate shifted beneath my feet.
Actually, I think you're kind of terrific.
The anticipation for the Masquerade is so high, Snoop Dogg levels of high, so do not be overly disruptive with cutting away to other things. I don't know if Eloise or Francesca is next up, but as a general tendency, I'm probably fine with you checking in on them because I'm assuming they will also be in attendance at the ball, and I would like to see how Eloise and or Francesca make progress towards their own turns as the main love story of a season. But just tread carefully. When a new season starts, I want to see the main couple of that season being cute and in love and talking to each other and sharing their feelings. That's already a major part of the foundation of Benophie's relationship, which is established at this Masquerade. You have to nail the Masquerade because it jumpstarts the entire trajectory of their love story. So keep the focus first and foremost on them. And to reiterate previous talking points, play up the laughter and the banter between them. Let Benedict tap into his Monsieur Poirot vibes, and hopefully that can set up his journey to eventually figuring out the true identity of his lady in silver. Whomever was tasked with doing the screenwriting for this episode, I hope you've included a lot of book quotes, specifically the really romantic and cute ones. And beyond just this one part of Benophie's story, the Masquerade, I hope they don't stifle Luke Thompson or Yerin Ha's input, because I fully trust that they understand their characters. Luke has been stuck on the bench for ages, waiting to be the main character.
It's been 84 years.
And Yerin, though we've only seen a handful of interview quotes, she's already proven she knows who Sophie Baek is. Prismatic girl? Really?
I am so powerful. My mind, it amazes me sometimes.
Let Luke Thompson and Yerin cook, because the romance girlies, we are ready to feast.
And 2 hard-boiled eggs.
And 2 hard-boiled eggs. Make that 3 hard-boiled eggs.